Jeff Dawson again. I'm reminded after the last one I did, there was a topic that I really didn't get to discuss on my radio show yesterday on BBS1 Dawson's Domain because the producer of the show decided the information I was giving was turned a 1 hour radio show into 3. But I wanted to get into the deficit because right now, okay, Biden signs the American Rescue Plan, $1.9 trillion, and all the Republicans about shit kittens. All we hear about is, do you know what this is going to cost our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just really, now this has just become a show. Yeah, I'm a conservative, but that doesn't mean I support ignorant comments from the right. And there have been more than enough of them to choke a dead man. And they're all focusing on this 1.9 trillion. Well, we didn't have it. Well, okay. That's true. We didn't. So let's go back and look at our deficit from an analytical standpoint. Okay. And I broke this down into decades. So the first one is from 29 to 39, 22 million deficit. At the end of it was 235 million. Well, what happened there? That was World War II. Well, you know, on the first one of 22 million, that was FDR and his bailout from the depression, from the stock market crash, and all the programs that he developed. That, yeah, back then, everybody was raising hell that there were socialist programs. Now, 22 million was a lot back then, but the one thing about Roosevelt that my grandfather survived because of the WPA. You got the recession, you got the fuel shortage, and you had Nixon, Ford, and Carter in office. Now here comes Reagan. From 80 to 89, $2.030 trillion. And we know how that happened because Reagan declared an economic war on the USSR, the Soviet Union. Russia today is not the Soviet Union of old, okay? And anybody who thinks that needs to pull their head out. Because when you hear in the press, Russia, 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 well, it ain't the Soviet Union. There's 13 states that make up the old Soviet Union. So just get that out of your head. Reagan adds 2.03 trillion. Yep, a lot of that went to the military. So now we get into Clinton. 2.799 trillion. How'd that happen? We did have Desert Storm under Senior. But so in 90 and 91, 376 million, 432 million, 92, 400 million, 346. But if you listen to those who supported Clinton, they said he balanced the budget. Do you see he did in 98? There was a 690 million. No, because that's 130. So there was a $69 million surplus out of the past budget, but the deficit kept going up. And this is what people don't seem to grasp. They say he balanced the budget. He balanced one budget in 8 years, not the other 7. And here comes the real bombs, 2000 to 2009. This is Bush Jr. This is 9/11. This is the 20-plus year war that's been going on in Afghanistan. $6.254 billion. But you also got to get Obama in there because he's coming in 08 and he added 1.1 and 1.885 trillion in 08 and 09. So he picks up half of that 6.2. And you heard the press, and this is why I don't watch the news, because there's no analytical thinking. Where's all the screaming in 1980? Where is it? Where's the screaming in 1990? 1970, I was old enough to watch the ABC, CBS, and NBC and listen to these guys talk about the news, and politicians in the 60s were talking about this unfettered spending. It was out of control and all this, that, and the other. But when you look at it, with the exception of World War II, what's that? Let me do some quick math here. Without World War II, starting in 1929 in the crash, so you got 69 plus 32, 22. So we're $123 million upside down. That's not bad, considering the scope of the situation. And yeah, World War II was 235. But they had war bond tours trying to pay for the war. Just didn't raise quite enough money, because you can only go to the trough so many times before people say, we just can't do this anymore. We just can't afford it. But Roosevelt tried to pay for the war. But so where was all the hooting and hollering? Like I said, in the 90s, in 2000, 2009, and then we got the end of Obama and we got Trump. Well, in that block, it's 10.8 trillion was added to the deficit. Now, where were the Republicans? I mean, Trump spent $5 trillion on this virus. Did you see any Republicans jumping up and down? Well, there was one, and that was Rand Paul. He's probably the only fiscal person in Congress. And a lot of those people don't like him over that. But he's it. He's the only one that was not willing to just give a blank check for all this. But where were all of the Republicans? Why weren't they jumping up and down over this? I mean, in 2020 alone, it went up $4.2 trillion. Yeah. But now the Republicans want to just bitch about 1.9 trillion. Where's the logic in that? Where's the bipartisanship in that? Well, there is none. And my point to this is, why haven't they, where's all this hollering been since 1979, 1990, 2000, 2010? And when I listen to these guys hoot and holler, I don't care which Republican it is, and they're up there getting their fame and they're going to the studios and giving their interviews, they aren't representing me. I don't know who the hell they are representing. And if you know, please tell me, because I'd like to get on that bus. This is unsustainable. We cannot continue this ridiculousness. And if these guys want to get serious, which I don't think that's possible anymore. Trump had a lot of deficiencies. There's no doubt about that. I've never said otherwise. But what I was hoping he could do if he got a second term was focus on the deficit. Obviously, COVID blew this up. And no, I don't think it was a conspiracy to bring down the United States and go with this world central government that's coming up. I know plenty of people that believe in that. Sooner or later, we're not going to be able to pay the interest check to the Federal Reserve, and the whole thing's going to collapse. And if the United States economy collapses, you can just what we saw in 1929 is just going to be like a blip in the road. Since we're all so heavily connected, and the banks are connected, and the financial institutions, just going to collapse. China, Germany. Germany is probably the strongest, the most liquid country there is. I'm not sure about China because you can't rely on any information that comes out of a communist country, but this will be a worldwide devastation. And all these power brokers who think they're in control, they're going to get hit just as hard. This is not where we want the world to go. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But if we keep this shit up, if this is what our, quote, elected officials want to keep doing, when that check bounces, the whole thing's going to bounce. It won't matter how much money you've got in the bank, because remember, the FDIC only insures up to $150,000. So if you've got $1 million in there, this is why people kept their money in mattresses or stuffed it in the walls. A lot of younger kids don't understand that because they didn't trust the banks, because they lost everything when Roosevelt closed them down. There was no FDIC, Federal Depository Insurance Company. What's going to happen if this mess continues? I mean, they actually projected on the site that I went to that what our deficit in 2022 is currently it'll add 2.1 trillion. So right now, in 2021, we're sitting at $29.406 trillion in debt. And, another reason I brought these up is I've seen that argument of Trump has added more to the deficit than anybody. Not by the numbers. Numbers just seem to get in the way at times. That's why I don't listen to the news. That's why I do my own analysis. He didn't help situations with COVID, because if you look at, let's see, he gets in 16. So let's look at him. He gets in at 16. Now, I understand that the budgets are from the prior administration, but it is what it is. So you got, let's see, 16, 1.4 trillion, 0.6 billion, 1.2 trillion, 1.2 trillion, and 1.18 trillion. Of course, you can say Biden can take that, but it is what it is. Whereas in 08, 1 trillion, 1.8, 1.6, 1.2, 1.2, 1.08, that's all under Obama. So, by that, Obama has the record deficits. Trump's in second place. Bush Jr., hell, he ain't far behind. Let's see. Bush Jr. got it 90, and he was there till, no, 2000. Well, he didn't hit a trillion until 2008, and we know what caused that. The housing derivative fiasco, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, everything collapsed, massive recession because Wall Street was betting both sides of the fence. And half of the people that were involved in that recession wound up serving as Obama's economic advisors. How the hell does that work out? Well, it really shouldn't. And they should have been barred from anything, but they were there. So numbers and research are really important, and I will harp and I will complain and I will carry on about that until the cows come home. Because research is very important, especially in today's political climate and mass media. I don't copy and paste unless I know I've researched an issue and I know what I'm talking about. I don't know how many posts I will just delete from people because this is bullshit. This is bullshit. And you're just passing on irrelevant information that you haven't checked. So if you want facts, if you want to be allowed to do your own analysis, like, subscribe to the channel. I'll even talk to you. But it has been a difficult year, and we do what we do to survive. But I would much rather come and talk, discuss baseball. I have 2 books on that. Management techniques, I have a book on that. And breast cancer and cancer in general, I have 3 books on that. And that's all I have today. So, no, I won't be back. Said all there is to say. Y'all have a great Sunday, and we will catch you on the next one.